Hey, Will, can you go on mute when you're not talking? Thank you. Okay, so I show the meeting live streaming. I'm going to call this June 25th meeting of the Templeton Advisory Committee to order. This is an out of cycle, not our normal meeting, but we have some a transfer and a bill that we want to get paid before the end of the fiscal year. So that's why we're doing it. If we could do Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't know if we're all looking at the same page.
Okay, so first order of business, I can't remember which order I put it in. We have this looming Gatehouse Media or Gardner News bill. It's over 90 days. I'm still going to check, but what I want to do is submit this. It's $134.78. It's for old bills. I don't think it, I'm going to double check because it doesn't show any current amount. So I think it's just for some old bills. I think there was one in January and then there was another one in, that was that special town meeting in January that we had. That the one article for the waste thing. I thought I submitted that to Kelly, but I'm going to double check all of my paperwork. But in lieu of that, the Gardner News, I'm not sure they're giving us the one from the spring or last fall, rather the fall town meeting for free, like they said they would. So I'm a little not happy with them about that. They screwed up. They told us they'd run it for free. But anyway, so like to make a motion to pay the Gardner, or it's Gatehouse New England now, or Gardner News. These are advisory committee bills for $134.78.
So moved.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or conversation?
Yes, I'm concerned that we don't have the ability, or we don't. I know we went through this process because we have to submit it on paperwork to
Yep.
the accountant,
Yep.
and for us not to have copies, I'm concerned that we don't get into this and we have some level of looking back at this and saying, yes, we submitted, and if we have to resubmit it on that paperwork, then go ahead and do it. That's my concern, is
Yep.
that we don't get into this position in the future.
Yep, I agree. I think that, I'd asked, when I submit them, I asked that they let me know when it's paid, and it just didn't happen. So I think going forward, we need to kind of come up with a different process of how we do it. I try to keep, Will, if you recall, we made copy. I think that was the one we made copies of. So,
Possibly going forward, if we just scanned a copy somewhere, so it's just
Yeah.
safe. Might just be the easiest way, because then you can just search and see where it's submitted and
Yep.
look back on the warrant.
okay. Yeah, we'll do that. So do I have any other comments on this?
Is the Gardner News, Tony, the only place that
Yeah.
it has to own? Does it have to be the Gardner News or a newspaper?
I think it's the Gardner News because that's the paper that services the town. Like Athol Daily, I don't know if I don't get the Athol. I guess it could go in the Worcester Telegram, but their rates are probably a lot higher.
Tony, if I might.
Yep.
So the bylaw does not specifically state where you have to advertise, but all of our statutory notices have to be published in a local newspaper of general circulation. The circulation figures for the Athol Daily News and the Worcester Telegram are, last time we looked at them, substantially lower than the Gardner News. And so from a statutory standpoint, again, the bylaw doesn't specify this for you, but as a practice based upon that statute, we do use the Gardner News.
Right, as have we.
Has the statute caught up with current times to where it could be Gardner News online versus Gardner News print, which would save a lot of money?
It is, it has added some internet combis, purchase goods and services bulletins, some things like that, Tom, allowed the use of our own website, but I don't believe it has changed the definition of the word published for the purposes, but let me take a note on that and circle back to y'all in a week or two.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, Deb,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So, Carter, if you would, or I'll come in, I'll bring it in Monday, because I'll have to come in to sign the transfer pending approval.
Yep.
I'll bring all the paperwork in, and I'll just put, I'll put the right information. Normally, we as members all sign it, but I think in this case, with everything going on, I think just one signature will be sufficient.
I think if you just
And the
put,
record of the meeting.
yeah, if you just sign it, put as authorized by the committee,
Yep.
today's date, that's sufficient for our purposes.
I think so. All right, so the second thing we're going to discuss was the vacation transfer. This is not, should not be new to anybody. I think, Tom, you were on when we first started discussing this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this should not be new to anybody. They sent a nice breakdown of which departments were doing what. We did get this a week ago, which I believe nothing in the bylaw says we must get a signed one week prior. We got one. If it hasn't, if it's only small changes, I know I saw an email about the available funds versus how much, et cetera. And I believe Adam sent out an email and corrected everything there. So does anybody have any discussion on this transfer?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I can.
Of course.
I've deliberated on this and looked at it from a number of ways. Let me first say that advisory is supposed to look out for the taxpayers and the taxpayers' money. The fact that in the past, the selectmen have, and this is the selectmen's policy, not ours, has basically said that employees must use their vacation before June 30th. And there is nothing in that policy that I'm aware of that said that there's exceptions. In the last couple of 2-3 years, the selectmen have made exceptions and granted 1 or 2 people to roll their vacation over to the next year. That doesn't cost the town any additional monies, because when we do a budget, the monies for vacation is in their salaries. This particular year, now we have an unusual situation here where we have a lot of people that seem to have not taken vacation. And unfortunately, I'll vote back to the minutes of May 7th when this was brought up. Unfortunately, I ended up having lost a person, and I was attending to that. I wasn't able to make the meeting, and it was brought up. There was three options. If you look at this and in a manner of, hey, listen, these people worked during this particular time, and we're going to take and end up paying them additional above and beyond their salaries by buying it out. That's an issue there. Let me finish, please.
Okay.
I have a bunch of things.
Okay.
If you look at our end of year policies on transfers, and if you look at policy number 2, and it says interdepartment transfers are intended to minimize the need for special town meetings, but are not intended to replace town meetings. And it goes on to say, if a town meeting is held between the event prompting the transfer request and submission of the required committee request, the committee will be justified to reject. Now, this was known way back on May 7th. It could have been put on the annual town meeting or special town meeting. The second part of the policy says in order to approve a transfer, the advisory committee must be of the opinion that the transfer would be approved by the town meeting. Well, those didn't happen. Unfortunately, are we going to end up following our policy the same as what the selectmen have done the last couple of years on vacation and coming up with exceptions? I have a concern around that. I ended up talking to some people that were at the town meeting, and if this had been brought up, I get the distinct impression from those people that it was be doubtful whether this would have been passed at town meeting, because it's above and beyond. It's above and beyond the salary that these individuals. We knew way back in May 7th. The other thing is, way back in May 7th, and even now, when you look at the amount of monies, the question I have in my mind is, there are people that we're talking about giving some additional monies to here, but there are people that have taken their vacation and they're not going to be allowed to end up having a buyout, so to speak. That's kind of discriminatory as far as they're concerned, and I'm not sure how the union, I would think that somebody in the union, if they had taken their vacation, might find objection and come after the town for that. So I'm concerned on all those points per se. I even talked to somebody from another community and said, hey, what do you think about this? Would your community do this? And if there's a policy? And they said, absolutely not. In business, this would not be allowed. So that's my concern, is that we're going to end up looking at this and voting one way or the other on it, and we're going to end up not abiding by our policy 1 and ending up giving monies above and beyond salaries to employees. That's not what the town meeting voted for. The town meeting voted to end up paying people salaries and didn't have an input to this. I wish that this had come to either the special town meeting or the annual town meeting.
Okay.
Well, I kind of disagree a little bit with you on this, because these people that actually came to work weren't able to take their vacations, worked every day. Personally, I think we should be giving them double what we are. And this is ridiculous that we're even disputing only giving them because they couldn't take their vacation time. They could have taken it if they wanted to, if like the certain members did, and that's fine. But how can we in turn sit there and say we're not going to buy it back from them, or at least give them something for an effort helping out the town, in essence? I mean, they've helped out the community by doing certain things. I know we've talked about, we don't want to just be in a policy of always doing it, but maybe it should be something we adjust in the personnel policy, not necessarily, down the road that we have to add a few words in. But this is kind of a unprecedented thing going on right now that none of us have seen in our bylaws and open meeting laws and any of these. And making a little bit of an adjustment, I don't see how that is detrimental to at least showing the employees that as a town, we care about them.
Right. So Will, I would add that in ordinary times, say last year, I'd 100% agree with you. But we're in such extraordinary times, you kind of tell it, maybe somebody had a vacation. Okay, I'm going to use an example of 2 individuals I know. I will not name them. but we're going to use a good chunk of their vacation time and we're going to go on a trip to Europe with the school. Okay? Trip got canceled. So now you're saying, well, you should have just taken the time anyway. And I don't think that's fair to them. They had planned, or maybe somebody had a vacation planned somewhere, say Disney, but because Disney's not open, they can't take it. But they, like Tom said, they stayed here, they helped the town. It's $15,000 if I remember right, something of that nature. It's not a lot of money. If it was ordinary circumstances, I'd 100% agree with you that, okay, you know, if you chose not to take your vacation, that's on you. But given this situation, I think an exception should definitely be made. And I'm all for this. And you know, like Tom said, I mean, it's a lot of the townspeople or the employees have stepped up. They've worked under trying circumstances. And to me, they shouldn't be penalized by losing a week's vacation.
Well, there
Mr.
was
Chairman,
no
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
I just want to address a couple of things here. First, that the town's personnel policy on page 22 in vacation, the very first section, provides specifically that on occasions where an employee is required to forego the vacation due to excessive workload or personnel constraints, a carryover may be permitted, and you make application to the select board. In this case, the constraints were vacations were canceled for many of these people out from underneath them. And also for several of them, you're going to notice one department, the Development Services Department, that's Lori Weta and the staff in there, and their vacation requests would have absolutely been denied. She has not only had to be at work every day, but she's been working 60 plus hours a week. And the board saw this as one small thing they could do to reward these frontline workers who we thought were going above and beyond. With respect to the unions, we did approach each union. We have a signed side letter with each union recognizing that this would be done only if all the unions agreed. It would not be a precedent for the future, can't be considered past practice and the like. So we have addressed each of those, and I'm going to leave untouched the balance of the concerns because I think we've addressed them at length. But I did want to make sure the board was aware of those two factual points of response.
Tony?
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge Faith is watching the live stream. She stated it should have been voted on by town meeting. It was something everyone was aware of prior to town meeting. What does it say in our bylaws? Thank you.
I think Carter just addressed that. Just make sure Faith's okay with that. Because I know there's a delay.
My concern was that this probably should have gone to town meeting versus coming to us, so that we didn't have to address it per se. I don't think that all the people were their vacations were mandatory, that they don't take them. I mean, I can see certain departments that it might have been mandatory that they can have them because of this COVID, but I can't see other departments that this would be justified to cancel their vacation and require them not to take it. So I see all these points, and I'm trying to point them out and saying, hey, listen, there has to be a better way to address this situation. And it should have been, since we knew about it on May 7th, I put that onus on the administrator and the select board. They knew about it way back then. They could have put it on the annual town meeting and the special town meeting. And this is the type of thing that should have been addressed rather than transfer. That's the.
I don't know if I can 100% agree with that, Will, because this is an extraordinary thing. And if you have people at town meeting that don't really understand the ins and outs of what these people are doing and what this means, you could get a no vote, but an uneducated no vote. Or on the same token, you could get a yes vote, but an uneducated yes vote. I just think that in this case, it was such an extraordinary circumstance that I really don't have a problem with the way they did it personally.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't always agree. In Carter, you'll laugh. I don't always agree with how Carter does things. However, in this case, I do feel that addressing it this way is correct. Quite often, and I've seen it in the past with the town, losing good employees to neighboring communities because they don't necessarily treat their employees well all the time. And I think that even if it's a small token, and it really doesn't matter whether it's somebody that had to come in to me or whether it's somebody that wanted to take their kid to an amusement park and couldn't, and that's what they had planned to use their days for. I think that in this situation with everything going on today, it just benefits the employee and inevitably it benefits the town because your employees are appreciative of what the community itself and the townspeople have done for them. So
I agree with that. Yeah, I think under any other circumstance, annual town meeting or special town meeting or fall town meeting may be the appropriate venue. But for such an extraordinary thing, I appreciate what the people of this town do and the employees of the town, and I just don't think it's that big of a deal.
Even out of this situation, it's a personnel issue that individual personnel issues really shouldn't be addressed at town floor, in my opinion.
I agree with that, Tom.
Any other discussion? Will, do you have anything else you want to bring up?
I believe I made my points as to why I feel uncomfortable about this.
I agree. I think you did. I think you really did a good job of explaining your position. I like I said, in any other time but COVID-19, I would be right there backing you up 100%.
And like I said, I had talked to some townspeople that had been at the meeting as well as not at the meeting, and in talking with them, I get the impression that if it had been discussed, that it, in all likelihood, it may or may not have passed. We won't know that.
No.
But I got the impression from these people, it would probably be questioned, and I don't know if this would be a majority or 2/3 vote, and it might not have passed. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? I'll make a motion to approve the transfer as requested.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Deb,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Will,
No.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so that was the only two things on the agenda. I will do the agenda, our next meeting, I don't know, I think we have to vote on not meeting on our regular time, right?
Sorry, say that again?
We have to vote to not meet next week. Do we
No,
have to?
that's not necessarily the chairman. It's at the call of the chairman.
Okay.
If you
All right.
if you don't have enough on the agenda, then you can cancel.
Okay. I am going to, I will think about it. I am more inclined to cancel next week's meeting going into the long 4th of July weekend. Unless anybody has a problem with that, email me within 2 seconds and I'll take that up. One thing we will probably do, again, if there's anybody on TV, we still need 2 new members. I know Tom's kind of beating the sticks. I'm trying to get it out on social media. I think between now and the 17th or 18th, I think the 17th, the moderator can still appoint. So if anybody comes in and puts their form in with Holly, the moderator can appoint a new person. After that, we'll do it. I'm also going to recommend that we reorganize at the next meeting. Anything else from anybody?
Mr. Chairman, may I update the committee on 2 items?
Sure.
So the first is, I do believe this is the 3rd budget transfer that we asked you for to close out the year. Based upon everything that I'm seeing, it will be the last. We will alert you as early as we can should we find something else is needed. But as of today, we're just not seeing anything. Everything looks in pretty decent shape. The second I want to touch upon, as you may recall, a couple of months ago, you gave us a transfer to deal with potential survey and legal title issues on the sale of one parcel of land from the town to the state. There were a number of title issues, and you did that. We appreciate that help that went into town council's escrow account. In the end, the state did the appraisal on it. We did not have to. They absorbed the costs of the survey work, so we did not have to absorb that. And during that process, we were able to clean up the title issues, so we did not end up expending $1 of those monies that you gave us. So the sale of both parcels has now been completed, approximately $27,500. It was amongst the most complicated title issues I've seen in my experience. So we had about 7,500, give or take, in legal fees altogether. But we will net $20,000 for the town in fiscal 21, and your $5,000 is coming back into the revenue stream in fiscal 21 in its entirety. So we thank you for the help, but just wanted to give you a quick update on that.
Okay, appreciate that, Carter. Thanks. All right, any comments from anybody? Hearing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Well, all right, everybody have a great 4th of July weekend, and we'll talk to you, and I guess that'll be about 3 weeks.